wherever and whenever I can take steps without legislation, that's what I'm going to do.
Mr. President, you're not a king, and Texans bow to no one. I'm Todd Staples, and I'll fight Obama's liberal agenda.
Fighting words and a rifle in the face of the Obama agenda. That was a bit of the televised vitriol deployed by Texas Lieutenant Governor hopeful Todd Staples, just one of the Republicans testing the limits of violent rhetoric heading into tomorrow's heated primary contests. And to be clear, the contest is who hates the president the most. In the first primary in 12 years without Governor Rick Perry on the ticket, the guy poised to take his place, Attorney General Greg Abbott, saw fit to campaign with the Nuge. Washed-up rocker turned right-wing loudmouth Ted Nugent recently called President Obama a subhuman mongrel. He is the same man who once said he would be dead or in jail if the president won a second term, and he is now campaigning for Greg Abbott instead. With standards these low, the high road has effectively become calling the president merely dishonest, as did Texas Senator John Cornyn.
People look at what's happening in Washington today. They see bad decisions being made, but then no one is held accountable.
The confidence in the American people will be shaken to its very core.
But for his Tea Party challenger, Congressman Steve Stockman, Cornyn might as well have sent the president a pajamagram. Stockman has created an entire website, CornynLovesObamacare.com. So subtle, filled with alleged proof that the senator harbors a secret and forbidden passion for covering the uninsured. As evidence, CornynLovesObamacare.com alleges the senator stabbed Cruz in the back with visual reference. Do we have that? By failing to endorse the Cruz-led catastrophe that was last fall's government shutdown. Ted Cruz, who faces a test of his own Tea Party influence in Texas tomorrow, has refused to endorse his Republican Senate colleague and says his vote is between him and the ballot box, if only all of Ted Cruz's votes stayed there. Joining me now from Austin is professor at the LBJ School of Public Policy at the University of Texas, Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, and senior political writer at the Dallas Morning News, Wayne Slater. Thank you all for joining me, and especially on the same camera. It's great to see you, Wayne. Let me start with you. Cornyn loves Obamacare. The creativity knows no bounds. What's going to happen tomorrow in Texas? Are we going to be forced to hear more from Steve Stockman in the coming weeks?
This could be the end of, I think, political end of Steve Stockman, but it's not the end of the Tea Party resurgence. In Texas, the old saying goes that if you want to run for office, you got to know how to lead a prayer and shoot a gun. And the additional thing is you got to be part of the second coming of Ted Cruz. Stockman hoped that he was going to be part of that post-Ted Cruz Tea Party wave. I don't think he's going to be successful, but there are other candidates running up and down the ballot to the right who are appealing to a very strong marginalia in the Republican Party.
Yeah, I think marginalia is perhaps the most euphemistic term for this group of people. Vicky, I mean, I don't want to say it, but I have to remind our audience of some of the things that are being peddled here. The official Obama barf bag, sold by Representative Steve Stockman's team for $10. Then also Greg Abbott's decision to campaign with someone, Ted Nugent, who called the president a subhuman mongrel. One asks, what are the long-term repercussions for the Republican Party given this crop of candidates?
You know, Alex, I'm actually seeing a split. I think what's happening is at the state level, we're going further and further to the right. We're seeing some very right-wing rhetoric. However, I'm surprised by the moderation with some of the big national races. So with John Cornyn's race, Steve Stockman, I mean, he's made a lot of noise, but he's going to come nowhere close to beating John Cornyn or getting him to go into the runoff. Pete Sessions also has a candidate to the right of him, and she's not going to win. So I find it interesting that at the more national level, bigger elections, we're seeing a little bit of moderation, or maybe let's just say not as much Tea Party influence. But here at home, for the state level races, I'm baffled at what I have seen in the past couple of weeks on the TV. I just don't turn on the TV anymore to see these ads.
But Wayne, you say that, you know, you made note that there are a lot of Tea Party challengers, that they're not going away in the state of Texas. The New York Times had a pretty substantive article this weekend talking about Texas politics and which has had a bigger effect on the field. The exit of Rick Perry, which has created a huge vacuum of vacancies, or the ascendance of Ted Cruz. Do you still, I mean, do you think, Vicky seems to think that we're not going to be hearing that much more from Steve Stockman, and that the national traditional sort of Texas Republican Party is much more progressive. How much do you think the Tea Party really is going to shape the direction of the Republican platform in Texas in the coming years?
I mean, Victoria is exactly right with respect to tomorrow's primary. Steve Stockman, a Tea Party challenger to Senator John Cornyn, who is quite conservative by any other state standards, is not going to win. Neither is Pete Sessions, the conservative congressman from Dallas, even though he has a substantial challenger, Tea Party challenger. But there's more to the Tea Party. Up and down the ballot on the Republican side, if you look at our lieutenant governor's race, every one of them are running with guns in their hands as if to advocate their Second Amendment rights. And instead of education, highways, and other issues as the top priorities, what we're hearing in that race as they compete for the electorate on the Republican side is guns, God, prayer in school, anti-abortion, and other social issues. So if the Tea Party has waned a bit in some areas, it's still very much a group to be appealed to, at least in this primary.
Yeah, and Vicki, you know, again, we're talking about how this, what position this puts the Republican Party going forward. If you look at the demographic numbers, I mean, the state is changing dramatically at this moment in time. Texas is 45% white and 38% Latino. In the next 6 years, Hispanics are expected to be 42%, neck and neck with the Caucasian white population, 42% in Texas. By 2030, whites will be 37% of the population, Hispanics will be 48% of the population. Those are dramatic, profound shifts in the makeup of the state. And in this race, you have someone like Chris Mapp, who's a challenger to John Cornyn, calling illegal immigrants wetbacks. What we are seeing is a party that is having an identity crisis, but probably more than that, really the fear is tangible, and the sense of cultural displacement is so pronounced that I wonder, you know, from your perspective, when you have a Texas population that is majority Hispanic, what corner the Republican Party is left in?
You know, what we're seeing right now is the Republican Party is digging in their heels, and they're probably looking at these numbers and doing so because of that. But the question is, what is the Republican Party going to do going forward because of these demographics? Are they going to change? Are they going to moderate? Because, Alex, it wasn't too long ago that George W. Bush, in his re-election for governor here in the state of Texas, got 49% of the Latino vote. So if the Republican Party decides to moderate, they could actually harness some of that Latino vote, because Latinos here in Texas are ideologically more conservative than Latinos elsewhere in the country. But let's just say that the Republican Party dismisses these numbers, doesn't want to moderate, and they keep on the same track. In that case, the Democratic Party really has the advantage. That being said, they would have to mobilize Latinos, because we really lag behind in not just registering, but turning out to vote.
Well, which is going to be a big issue in this year's midterms. Vicki DeFrancesco Soto and Wayne Slater, thank you both for your time.